obviously, but it wasn't bad. The fact that he would have done well on this is a good harbinger for the decision making.
And remember now, so the Titans didn't have access. The Titans are not customers of S2. They went to John Robinson and he said, "Nah, I'm good," and they went to the Colts instead. So they are
one per division. Is what they tried to do.
So they did at the time. Now they have gone up to 2 per division, and it's, I think it's the Jag. I'm not sure. It's either the Jags, Texans. I'm not sure. Along with the Colts.
Still not the Titans.
Not Titans. So now, does that mean you can't get? I'm sure it's not that hard, but you don't have the full. You shouldn't have the full reports and everything that come with it that are what the customers get.
Context.
Right. And of course, there's a lot of other context on the S2 guys who, of course, are both neuroscientists who have helped people overcome neurological disorders. That's what their job is. And so these things were tests. It's not just predictive; it's also helping people get better. Right. This is like you work on things, but it does. I think a big thing. It may not be apples for apples with like reading defense, but there is definitely can you see this? Peripheral vision, things like that, and can you react quickly to that and make the right decision? So there is that element of it, and I do think to some extent it tells you a little bit about a person's ability to laser focus in, and quickly see things, right? So, and someone texted that Levis had the same score as Burrow, 93rd. Burrow was definitely higher, and they're like promotional brochure from like 2019 or 2020 or whatever. Yeah, I guess it would have been 2020. Burrow, I believe, is at least like 97 or 98. But regardless, Levis did well. And to me, I understand the death picks and at times, a little bit of hero ball. Yeah, I think he'll see the field, and I think this is where Callahan will help him. I'm not overly concerned on the decision part. To me, that's way behind just the mechanical. Can you get it there, get it there every time? That's where I think it just remains to be seen. And of course, you can work on that too. You work on your footwork, and there are certain things where you can make it more consistent. But I don't know. I mean, you have to be awfully consistently accurate to really be a top quarterback in this league.
And the hero ball thing, yeah, I mean, you're kind of dismissing that. That's a decision-making thing.
I'm not saying it's nothing, but to me, I put that a distant second. Yeah.
I think the other thing you really like about him that we could tend to overrate is the moxie. Like, it's hard not to like him. His personality is a winning personality. You want to score that high, but what percentage when you're scoring him do you give that? I think we in the media give it too high a percentage. I love guys who are good talkers and fun to be around. He's a great talker, and he's fun to be around. He gets us. He understands our jobs. He'll shoot the bleep with you, coming and going from a press conference or coming off the field. You can grab him for a little extra question outside of his media time and all of that stuff. It's tremendous to have a quarterback like that. Tannehill, good guy, cool and everything, tries to be helpful, bland, generally bland. Matt Hasselbeck was the last quarterback around here who was kind of like Locker, but not as energetic. So
kind of like Levis.
So when you have a guy like Levis in the media, you're going to tend to, it's just kind of human nature to score him up. You can't help it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm trying to think of, like, for lack of a better term, turd personality quarterbacks who have been great. Because it's like a guy who comes to mind for me who's someone who has absolutely maximized his ability is like Kirk Cousins, who, personality-wise is about as good as it gets.
McNair wasn't a turd by any means, but McNair made us wait forever, all the time. Like Derrick Henry level.
But what about, like, was there a good conversation? Like, did he enjoy doing it all? Whatever,
He was kind of a Harold Landry reluctant.
Okay.
But did what he had to do. But it's also a different era, I don't think he was strictly once a week. Eddie George wasn't a once-a-week guy. So it was very much a different time.
I think there's some crossover and correlation between, like, getting it in that way and being able to verbalize and understand that you're speaking for, it's a leadership thing. I think there's some crossover to play, and I think most of the great quarterbacks, obviously Aaron Rodgers has just gone off the deep end, but even it can be engaging, right?
Yeah.
And can lead a team and
played a game.
Peyton and Brady,
Certainly
they all kind of have. But I agree that there is some level of if a QB sticks his head in and gets fired up in first down, you maybe how much does that really matter, right? Teammates like it, so it can endear you to your teammates. It can also
Marcus didn't have that, and his teammates raved about him. You know who didn't rave about him after the fact? Malarkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said he didn't have the requisite leadership details. But I also think
Vrabel thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Vrabel, of course, is used to Brady, right? So that's, and I think.
But I also think on this media or public persona thing, for everybody, I always say this. Why not do it? It buys you benefit of the doubt. It buys you time. It extends your life. I told Vrabel this a couple times. Dude, you're hurting yourself. You could be buying yourself more goodwill if you just, for 10 minutes, weren't such an ass.
Yeah. And what did he say?
A couple times he said, I do need to be more conscious of it in an honest moment.
But,
a couple other times he told me to blow off.
Yeah. But when it comes down to it, was that a factor?
Ultimately not for him, but it could have been.
Yeah.
If they were 2 games better and it was more about injuries and less about some other stuff, it could have mattered.
Yeah, it could.
Because I think most of the fan base was probably ready for him to go. But if it was more of a split and there was a fan push to keep him, could it have affected her opinion? I think maybe it could have.
Yeah.
I think that she's
rabbit ears?
To a degree. I don't think she's completely reactive to public opinion, but I think she weighs it, measures it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think that there are definitely examples of people who probably help themselves. Well, we talked earlier in the show about Izzo. He's an example of someone who talked to anybody, call me whenever, and so there's probably. But again, then you have largely all success, so it's hard to judge. But I think that's bought. Maybe Corbin around here is an example of someone who's bought some goodwill.
Well, Rand. Maybe isn't buying it with local media because he's still not super accessible. But when Rand gets fired, and I say that because everybody gets fired, it's going to be hard for somebody to fire him on a personal level because they will like him personally in the building forever to a great deal. It's never going to be over a personality clash, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Whereas
Vrabel was inevitably going to be fired over a personality clash that had something to do with his ego.
Yeah, and his size alone, the intimidation.
Oh, my God. Can't hire that guy. He's too intimidating.
What? By the way, I've actually had a lot of people in some of these meetings I was at this week asking me about, Vrabel and stuff, which is interesting. I'm like, well, Cleveland Browns, because there's some belief in the college football circles, to circle back to what we were just talking about not long ago, that Ryan Day – don't lose to Michigan this year. Last year he got away with it. Michigan was a great team. It was on the road. It was a good game. He is not surviving a 4th loss, and I think there's still a strong feeling the clear number 1 candidate, the absolute go right to him, make him say no, is still Vrabel.
And a 4th loss is not to Harbaugh, which I think is significant. Look, I think Vrabel, is at a crossroads after this year. Now, I do think some jobs open up, and I know some people say, hey, you guys missed on this last year thinking he'd be a popular candidate. I do think some jobs that will open up will be more suited for Vrabel. I think a New York Giants job is more suited for Vrabel. I think a Philadelphia Eagles job is more suited for Vrabel. I think that Northeastern mentality is more suited for Vrabel. But if he wants back in, and I can't imagine a guy at his age doesn't want a second crack, if the NFL doesn't open up for him this year, if you're out 3 years without, a Super Bowl resume, you get forgotten about. So if he doesn't get an NFL job this year, he may be headed back to college. Now, how do the hiring cycles match up? I don't believe he's taking Ohio State before he finds out if the NFL job is available to him. So if Ohio State's going to have to wait if in fact they want him, and I can imagine him saying that. Hey, if you want me, because the hiring process allows you to talk to guys who are out of the league.
Yeah.
Well, he's not out of the league.
That's right, though. He's still with the
So,
Browns. Yeah, it's interesting. I know that he's NIL, but again, one job, not college football, one job. That job, it's not immune to NIL, but what they do is they just change out players and bring in better players. That's what Ohio State does, is what Georgia does. It's what Alabama does.
And he can delegate a lot of that stuff. He's just got to hire better. He got to hire better than he hired here. And his NIL expert obviously is not coming out of the pool of people he was dealing with here. But he's got to hire better.
Yeah, all right, we come back. By the way, speaking of hiring, there's an interesting hire that did just happen in the NBA. We'll get into that a little bit more on the Titans here on Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Again, final segment, Stillman and Company, Kaharski and Rexroad and Kaharski. Nick Frazier producing. Thanks for all your help, Nick, from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We are at Hermitage Golf Course. You got Jake Lyman and Tron Davenport about to take over at the top of the hour. This is the 615 Open, benefiting Souls for Souls. Great event. Lots of celebs out here, including Robbie Stanley, was very pumped with his team with Nick Barnowski, PR of the Preds, who's got the Spartan Golf Club covers. So And we are, first of all, we'll get back in the Titans, but I do want to make sure we address J.J. Redick is the Lakers' clear number 2 choice and gets the job. What do you think about J.J. Redick, L.A. Lakers head coach?
Never coached, right?
Yep. I mean,
you go from chasing Dan Hurley to J.J. Redick. It's just NBA coaching never ceases to disappoint me. And Monty Williams.
the Monty Williams, like it's $100 million between 2 teams to not coach.
And
1 year with the Pistons, and he's
all
out.
to give Trajan Langdon the power to hire his coach in Detroit. How good is Trajan Langdon's resume?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, what's that? The Alaskan assassin. Yeah. That's right, TD. That's right. He was on maybe the best Duke team
since
ever.
he was assassinating anyone as the most famous Alaskan basketball player. I just NBA hiring it doesn't get me. LeBron's in charge of that team. You might as well have named him player coach. How many minutes is Bronny going to get after they waste a pick on him? The whole thing just makes me like the league less.
Yeah, I mean it's I do think it's a special situation with LeBron because it really is. It's kind of like he is kind of like co-coach wherever he is. And I mean, I saw Stephen A. Smith and what he said about like the podcast and how egregious it was. I don't believe like this was some scheme. I think that they just really want to do the podcast, and then I think this did sort of grow out of that. So I get, certainly Darvin Ham. I totally get him not liking that whole situation. I absolutely do. And I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I think J.J. Redick's. I mean, if you talk ball with him, it is fascinating. I've listened to an episode of that podcast. It's great. Like if you love hoops and love hoops strategy, I mean, it's fascinating. And he's a pretty good analyst and all that. He was a good player. But yeah, like just zero coaching at all, and just come in and you're the head coach of the Lakers. It is bizarre. It's a bizarre situation.
Pro sports has become more comfortable with the idea of no coaching. Aaron Boone went from a booth to coaching the preeminent baseball team. Here's one of the preeminent basketball teams doing the same thing. We've seen broadcasters do this, so it's not unprecedented, but it's weird. And basketball coaches are just so powerless. Players don't listen to them, and if they want them out, they're out. So, LeBron and Redick could be tight as could be. If Redick tries to assert authority and does it in a way that LeBron doesn't like the authority that he's trying to assert, he'll be gone in short order.
Well, I think you're generalizing with players don't listen to coaches and all that stuff. Coaches are problems. I think that varies from team to team.
If you're a strong-willed player that doesn't like your head coach is no longer your head coach.
Well, if you're like that level of player, maybe, right?
Well, how many teams have not a LeBron level? LeBron's one of the 3 best players of all time. But if you're one of the top 10 players in the league, you have that authority.
In theory, you could, but also the top 10 players are different personalities too, right? I mean, look, LeBron is the greatest player of all time. First of all,
no, he's not.
Oh, he absolutely is. You want to have TD? TD's not sure on that.
It's the worst radio. It's the worst radio topic ever.
Yeah, but regardless,
but
he is. He is. It's just a different situation with him.
I mean, didn't Jordan beat up on your Pistons enough for you to? No.
Oh, like going 1-3 against them in playoff series? No, not really. That was his record against the Pistons in the playoffs. You want me to go through his stats in the game by game? We could do that too if you want. All right.
Congratulations.
He did beat him once, though. He finally beat him.
Yeah, I remember them not shaking his hands. Classy move.
Joe Dumars and John Sally shook their hands. The Boston Celtics didn't shake the Pistons' hands when they beat them, but we love Larry Bird. Okay.
I don't love Larry Bird.
Let's not vilify them.
Let's get this straight.
Why was no one vilifying him?
I'm the right kind of fan, unlike most fans. I'm a Knicks fan, right? So when the Jordan special came out during COVID and everybody was lapping up, slurping Michael Jordan, what I said is, I hate the guy because he prevented my team from winning championships over and over and over. I respect his greatness, but I'm not going to watch this special on my knees in front of the TV like America because he beat my team.
Okay.
Same as Larry Bird. fantastic player, beat my team on a regular basis.
Right.
I remember Ewing hitting a 3 to beat Larry Bird. It was a very happy day in my life. I don't want Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and LeBron James to have success. I want the Knicks to have success.
Okay.
They're my team.
So
what's wrong with America?
That's fine.
That they're hero worshiping all these players who are not on their team.
Well, okay. So, but what's wrong with why'd you bring up the not shaking hands thing? That you should
I
you
just
should
wanted
celebrate
to throw it
that.
at your face
Yeah, okay.
that they
Exactly.
won a lot more than the Pistons.
1 and 3. 1 and 3. Thank you.
They could do the title count.
Yeah, man, 90s they got way easier. I was going to get to something else, and now we've been derailed. JJ Redick, that'll be interesting. I did one point on that though. I mean, it's like we talked about with Brian Callahan. I mean, it is a like the domineering. I know football's different, right? Like I think it's like that's just like football, right? But that domineering coach is less and less going to be less and less apparent, and
right now.
More of the kind of young, cool. Hey, that's a collaboration type coach. I mean, is
it a cycle?
Well,
it might be more than a cycle
when it
because
fails.
McVay and the McVay Club have had such success.
Yeah.
Michael Silver has a book that's either out or coming out. It's about the why. You know, and players want to know the why now, and McVay's and Shanahan have taken teams down that course, and it's been very successful.
Yeah. I mean, you
cycle?
have more ownership.
Does there come a time where an owner says, you know what, my team's too soft with this stuff, and they're getting too many answers from my coach, and I want a guy who's going to come in here and put his foot down and get things done in an old-school fashion, and these kids who are too soft, they don't need so many answers, you know? And does that guy have success? And then does the pendulum swing back? I don't know.
I don't think it fully swings back. This is societal, though. This is societal too.
Maybe not fully, but maybe partially.
Yeah, I mean,
because all you need is one guy to be Bill Parcells, and then all of a sudden you're looking for history.
Well, I mean, Vrabel is. Although
Vrabel's out of work.
Right, but I mean Vrabel,
and he still had good relationships.
Exactly, Vrabel's was more of a quote unquote players coach than people
ever wanted.
No, and probably now know what. Of course, people want to contrast him, right, to Callahan. But I hear you. I mean, like if you have whatever you are, if you're bad and lose, then that place tries to hire the opposite next time, right? So, but I think that we're moving.
It's a big trend
in that
right
direction.
A
overall.
big trend.
All right, I guess we have a caller. Quickly, Dylan in Antioch want to talk about why Vrabel doesn't have a head coaching job.
Hey, what's up, guys? Our servers got hacked at work, and we got sent home early, and I'm in the pool right now, which is
Good
awesome.
For you.
But it's excellent. So I was hearing you guys talk about Vrabel earlier, and I remember Diana reporting that some teams would fire their coaches to hire Mike Vrabel and all this stuff, and you guys are closer to him, and TD especially. You all three, you guys. I mean, do you have any idea behind the scenes what could have happened and why he didn't get a head coaching job? And let me hang you on the line and listen because I'm in the pool with my cell phone. Thanks.
Well, he was second for the Chargers. If Harbaugh didn't take the Chargers job, Vrabel was getting the Chargers job. I don't know what happened in the other place. I think a lot of what Joe just talked about here, guys with those kind of personalities, including Raheem Morris, stepped in front of him at all of those places. Some places absolutely didn't want the kind of coach that Vrabel was, and I think TD's sitting right here. He's coming on next. You can ask him. I think he shared in the surprise. All of us who said he was going to get a job were clearly wrong. A lot of people want to rub our noses in that. You didn't have that tone to you, but I think we were surprised, and I think we'll be surprised if he doesn't resurface next year. If he doesn't resurface next year, I think then people start to forget about you. And then he's in trouble. Then the Ohio State thing becomes a factor to me because there's another crop of coordinators that become the next hot thing. And that's where the league is looking right now. That's where the league is looking.
Yeah, look, yeah. I mean, I was right. But as far as you asked about what happened here, I mean, that's all. I mean, I think that's all been
pretty well
reported and documented and talked about. I mean, it's a bad communication. Some miscommunications, bad communications, perceived slights, real slights.
But he is not as difficult to deal with as people make him out to be. He is a very personable guy to converse with and to deal with. Now, when he's pissed off, he doesn't suffer fools, all right?
Yep.
And there were some people that he thought weren't necessarily qualified. Here comes Robbie Stanley going to tee off in front of us. You are going to shank this.
Let's see it, baby. Let's see it.
And so, he ran into some people that he didn't necessarily think were qualified to be doing what they were doing. And I'm not necessarily talking about the top, but I'm talking about the beginning of what filled in upstairs, so to speak, even though all the offices are on one level now.
By the way, I have a correction. Titans are the second subscription. We'll have S2 in the division. And I believe that means that another team got out, I think. I think that's right. I don't think it was Colts and then right to Titans. But apologize, and that's been corrected.
Well, thank you. I apologize again to the people.
I apologize. I also apologize for my NWI story that you told me I need to apologize to the fans for.
Hey, that's big.
I'm kidding. I'm not
on that for 3 years.
What are you talking about?
He finally apologized. You
he
said he was qualified to be a 2. He's now a 5.
I did not write
he's
that.
He's now a 5.
Full of
and
crap.
He's where he needs to be.
Absolutely.
You said he should be a 2.
Yes, I said he should be a 2. That's
you said he
right.
could be.
Okay.
You said they saw him as a 2. They've spent all of this time trying to get out of him being a 2. He finally is a 5. Everything is where it should be. Now 2 guys will get hurt. He'll be a 2, but at least there's some room between it.
I thought I said he was going to be a 1. Hey, meanwhile, all he does
you want him
is
you want him ahead of D-Hop and Ridley. Admit it.
I mean, that's not going to happen. But all he does is he goes out there and he just keeps making
just
plays.
aspire to more. Aspire to a guy in his role who has a higher ceiling. It's time to get there.
Okay, that guy is on the roster.
Who?
Traylon Burks.
Well, Traylon Burks is already ahead of him.
Okay, but. Okay, so what do you want? I mean, you're saying that you should aspire for more than NWI as like your 4th or 5th receiver?
No, he's going to end up high. Yeah, I'm saying NWI has played his course, and it's time for them to aspire to have somebody better than that.
But
no matter where he is in the position.
I'm saying there's something to be said for professionalism, responsibility, versatility, a guy who will go in and block someone, make a play,
Absolutely.
and there's something to be said for
there's
that.
a guy like that. There's a guy.
These guys love him too, just like Vrabel, and they're like, oh yeah, actually we love this kid.
There's a guy like that who has all those qualities and speed.
Who?
They're all over the place coming out of college.
Okay.
The Titans refuse to draft one.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this first hour of Stilly and Co. here with Paul Kaharski and Joe Richter.
I got a lot of problems. I'm going to tell you about my big problem when I come back. But I'm going to do it in the voice of Terod Davenport, my favorite Titans writer. I'll take his opinion over Kaharski anytime, every day, even when I'm sitting like a blob on the beach, which I'm doing right now.
Oh, man. All right, and that is TD and Jake Lyman coming up next. Thanks for listening, folks. 102.5, 106.3.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.